What's up, guys? Toad back again. This is the Better Off Dead NFL Week 9 edition. As I've mentioned in a couple other of my videos, I really don't like this NFL card. I do have two plays this week. Well, three, actually, because I already won on the first play on the Jets on Thursday night. So I'm off to a 1-0 NFL start this week, trying to turn things around after a couple of really bad NFL weeks. I got two plays on the Sunday card. And of course, as usual, I'll talk about the Monday night game and the Sunday night game because I don't have plays in either of those games this time. So I'll talk about those and maybe a couple other additional leans here in the NFL. I'm coming off a 2-3 day today. Fuck the NBA. I mean, I was 2-1 in college football. College football went decently. I mean, SMU, really easy win on SMU. We got the outright win with UCLA as the underdog as well. So those went nicely. Auburn, not so much. I mean, I think Auburn, I'd have to look. I think they outgained Vandy in the game, and they still lost 17-7. I mean, and I don't even think they turned the ball over in the game. Auburn, their problem has been turnovers. I don't know how they lost that game by 10 points. I didn't watch it. I don't want to go back and look really, but maybe I should just to perform an autopsy on my dead bets. But the NBA was the huge problem today. I mean, the market shifted like later to go against both of my plays. And the Philadelphia 76ers, they are just whatever. They're just not going to be good without Joel Embiid. Like, get his ass back. I thought it was a decent spot to play them, but no. And Milwaukee, I mean, I don't really regret that play as much. I think it was still actually the right spot to play in that game. That was just a close game the whole way statistically. And Milwaukee only shot 60% from the free throw line. And that was basically the difference in the game, was that they couldn't make their free throws. And they lost by 1 point. So that was a lot closer. Nate, I apologize, sir, about your Nebraska Cornhuskers there. No bias from me. I play the spots that I see. My college football has been pretty good this season. I'm having a good college football season. Seeing things well in college football, and I want to turn the NFL around, man, because the last couple of years, the NFL has been better than college football. And this year, it's the complete opposite. So I want to turn that around. This is going to be NFL on this show, obviously. You're 1-3. That's, man, that's unfortunate, Nate. I don't know what were your bets? Didn't I tell you? I told you not to play those, right? Or maybe you already had played them. Old Dominion, I told you that I leaned against Old Dominion. I forget what the other ones were. I think, did I have TCU correct as well? I don't know. I didn't bet any of those, but I just looked, and those are the ways that I leaned. I think my college football leans, like the last couple of weeks, have been really spot on, too, I'm pretty sure. Like, it seems like I'm just getting all these, like all the games that I talk about, it seems like I'm like nailing the side on most of them. It's crazy. And my college pick'em pool, I'm still not doing well in, because a lot of those are games that I don't talk about, because ESPN is like, here, go pick this game that has like a 25-point favorite, and I'm like, really? Whatever. So those are not the games that I tend to talk about on the show because they're way harder to read. Let's talk about the NFL here, shall we? So I'm already 1-0 with the New York Jets, so I am happy about that. That was a nice spot for the Jets. Yeah, you didn't have a losing Saturday yet. Yeah, you were plump and gay. That's true. I put you in a letdown, so you've been doing well, though, Nate. So that is good. I don't know what your third loss was. I think I talked about all those games, though. I forget what it was. And unfortunately, I didn't like the fact that one of my actual bets, the Auburn one, actually lost when I was like getting so many of these games correct. I'm like, man, I get that one wrong. One of my actual plays, but whatever. So NFL here, let's talk about this. I don't even know which of these games I actually want to address because it's like, I usually talk about some of the bigger matchups usually, but I think really what I'm going to do is talk about ones where I had like maybe some opinions on and didn't actually wind up playing the game. One of them was going to be this Chargers against Cleveland game here, where on the surface, the first thing I thought of in this game was Cleveland's got to be in a letdown spot. I mean, they just pulled off a huge upset win over Baltimore. Cleveland, they do look way better with Jameis Winston there. I mean, their offense is coming together now, man, with Winston at the helm now. So the Deshaun Watson thing is out of the picture. So they know they're going with Winston now. Nick Chubb is back there giving you guys a Chubb. I mean, they don't have Amari Cooper anymore, but that offense looks like it is doing much, much better in the state that it's in right now. They played well against Baltimore, but this looks like it would be a letdown spot coming off. Then they're not even traveling, so they're just kind of staying at home after that massive win. But then again, you could think, well, maybe that win is going to like kind of disrupt all that losing momentum that they had. But still, I mean, I kind of do still lean to the Chargers just because this is a letdown spot. And the Chargers, I mean, they're coming off an easy win over the Saints, which there's really nothing to take away from that. They really don't have any very important games coming up. So to me, it seemed like potentially I was going to wind up playing the Chargers here. But then I looked at the market, and the market is basically saying don't do that. The Chargers are down from 3.5 to 1, and it looks like the money is coming in on the Browns side as they're somehow slightly public. 54% of the tickets, I guess just because the public saw them beat the Ravens, and the public doesn't like how the Chargers offense has looked pretty mediocre all season, really, with Justin Herbert has been playing injured for a lot of the season, but he seems to be getting a little bit healthier there. But the Browns also have 64% of the cash, and the line has dropped. So if you do like the Chargers, you're at least getting more value there, and you're playing them to basically just win the game. I mean, like I said, I think I do still lean that way because the biggest factor here still seems to be that it's a pretty big letdown spot for the Browns. So that's the only thing I could think of there. Mitch, what's up, man? Thanks for hanging out. So that's the only way that I can really look at that game, really think about that. But the market is completely against that opinion. So staying off of that one, New England, Tennessee, I'm going to talk about just because I think the situation is worth talking about. But I would lean to the Tennessee side of this one. There's no way I actually want to lay points with the Tennessee Titans. I mean, that just seems like you're asking for trouble. But I do actually lean that way because the Patriots, talk about letdown spots. I think they're going to be in a letdown spot. They're coming off beating the Jets. Big win as an underdog. Big divisional win against Aaron Rodgers. How did the Patriots even win this game? I still don't know. I mean, they got a touchdown right near the end. Drake May got hurt in this game, and they wound up winning the game with Jacoby Brissett there. Does seem like Drake May is healthy, though, or healthy enough that he is going to play in this game against Tennessee, so he will be back, seemingly. But still, the Patriots, I mentioned this when I talked about the Jets Thursday night game. This was a historic result in a game where the Jets had no turnovers. They scored at least 20 points, and they held their opponent, New England, to 250 yards or fewer on offense, and they lost the game. And with those statistics in NFL history, going back to like 1940 or something, teams that did that statistically, those three things were 756-0 straight up, and the Jets somehow managed to lose this game somehow. I don't know how, but basically what I'm saying is I think the Patriots probably should have lost this game. Granted, yes, Drake May was out, so they did have to go with Brissett, and I think their offense is better with Drake May. I mean, he's got a better arm there at the very least, even though he might be more mistake-prone than Jacoby Brissett. But that's just still a big win to be coming off of, man. Now you got Drake May coming back in here. You're going on the road to play Tennessee, and it's like, I don't know, man. Are they really going to be focused on Tennessee? They do have Chicago up next. Is that a bigger game? Because that's going to be like that's going to be like a rookie quarterback battle, right? Between Drake May and Caleb Williams. So that could actually be cause for a look ahead because those rookie quarterback battles are kind of a big deal. And I am going to talk about the one that happened last week that I won on in a second. So it could be a little bit of a look ahead. It looks a little bit sandwichy for New England here, but again, I don't want to lay points with the Tennessee Titans, man, but I don't think the public does either. I mean, look at Tennessee has one win on the season, and they've just looked awful. They're just making mistakes all over the place. The public does not want anything to do with them, and the public's looking at the Patriots thinking that, hey, with Drake May, the Patriots offense actually looks kind of capable. May was fixing to eat their lunch. I don't know about that against the Jets. I mean, the Jets' defense is not that bad. Titans here, though. Patriots are getting some of the public action, 54% of the tickets. Titans are up a little bit from 3 with juice to 3.5 with reduced juice. So not a huge move really there, but 78% of the cash on the Titans. So the market read looks like it's on the Titans. My opinion is that the situation is also in favor of the Titans. And looking at the Titans side of things, I mean, they're coming off multiple blowout losses in a row. And this one, both on the road, but this most recent one against Detroit, they lost 52-14. It looks like they got completely crushed in this game, right? But look at the statistics in this game. Tennessee outgained Detroit by almost 200 yards in this game, 416 yards of offense. by Tennessee. I mean, Detroit doesn't have the best defense, but still. And yes, they were playing from behind, so they were probably throwing the ball a lot. But with Mason Rudolph at the helm, this awful Tennessee offense put up 416 yards, and Detroit hardly did anything against Tennessee's defense. So the scoreboard in this game does not really tell you what actually happened in this game. And Tennessee dominated possession as well, which that seems to be the case a lot with Detroit, though. They just have these weird, efficient, like quick scoring drives, or Jared Goff doesn't throw that many passes. They run the ball a lot. I don't know, but Tennessee also had more first downs, but Tennessee was -4 in turnovers, so you know that was part of this. And I think there was at least one. I thought there was one defensive touchdown in this game. Maybe I'm wrong about that. I guess I am wrong about that, but still. Titans -4 in turnovers. Really what it comes down to is that the Titans were not as bad in this game as what the final score looks. I mean, yes, they suck. Yes, they lost, but based on the statistics in that game was nowhere near what the final score makes it look like. So Tennessee would be the lean here against New England for all those reasons, and because that's just such an embarrassing loss on the scoreboard. Seems like a bounce-back spot to me. 50 rushing yards for Drake May in that game, and he threw for a touchdown. Yeah, I mean, I still think the Patriots actually probably would have lost that game if he stayed in the game, but I don't know, man. I mean, the Jets, obviously they'd prepared for Drake May in that game because that's who they were going to be facing. So maybe having to face Jacoby Brissett kind of threw them off a little bit, even though Brissett doesn't really add any dimensions, though, to the game. I mean, his one dimension that he adds is that he doesn't turn the ball over that much. So that's really all he adds, because your offense is going to be pretty vanilla with Jacoby Brissett in there. What else do I want to talk about here? Broncos-Ravens I'll talk about just because it is a big game with two teams that have been winning. But the Ravens, as you can see, the odds makers are telling you the Ravens are the significantly better team, laying 9.5 points, and it looks like it's headed towards 10 maybe, but they look a little bit public. 63% of tickets, only 62% of the cash. I did hear some other sports bettors saying that the Broncos are actually a public underdog in this game. I don't see that being the case with pregame's numbers here, but my opinion is that I do kind of lean to the Ravens in this spot, just because I think the line, to the public eye, to me at least, it seems like the line to them would still look like it's too big. I mean, you have two teams that are 5-3. Everybody does know the Ravens are good, but I think the Broncos are being very overvalued, by the betting public right now, and the odds makers are telling you who the better team really is, with Baltimore laying this many points at home. Odds makers are telling you Baltimore is the way better team here, and I agree with that, obviously. And the Ravens are also in a bounce-back spot because they're coming off that loss to Cleveland, which is a pretty ugly loss. I mean, look at what the Ravens have been doing leading up to that. They beat Dallas on the road. They crushed Buffalo in a primetime game. Played this high-scoring divisional game against Cincinnati and wound up coming back and beating them and beating me because I had a bet on Cincinnati in that one. They beat Washington, the up-and-coming Washington team there, and then they won on Monday night at Tampa, even though Tampa lost their top two wide receivers in that game. They didn't lose Godwin until the very end. So Baltimore is coming off a slew of big games, and then I think second straight road game, I think it just wasn't a very good spot, and they just overlooked Cleveland with the way Cleveland had been playing recently, and they got caught. So I think this is a bounce-back spot. Good teams like Baltimore, even if you lose and it disrupts your winning momentum, I don't think it tends to hang you over that much when you just lose a game. You lose a game you should have won as a 9-point favorite, which, yeah, that line was probably a little bit too high. But still, I think Baltimore is in a spot where they're going to show up focused here because they lost that previous game. And they're still battling for the division, man. I mean, they're still behind Pittsburgh in this division. So Baltimore needs to get some conference wins here and keep that up. Broncos, on the other hand, I mean, yeah, they're coming off beating the Saints in Carolina, and they looked good in doing so, but really, I mean, this Saints team is massively injured, so I don't think there's much you can take away from that at all. And then beating Carolina, I mean, everybody's beating Carolina except for the Raiders, so I don't think there's that much you can take away from all this. The Broncos, they haven't faced a very difficult schedule, let's just put it that way. I'm not very impressed with their record as far as the opponents that they've played so far this season. When they played Tampa Bay, they caught them in a really bad spot. It was a huge sandwich spot for Tampa Bay there between the playoff road revenge win over Detroit, and then Tampa had some other big game coming up after that, Philadelphia, I think. So Denver caught Tampa in the absolute perfect spot. I think Denver got really lucky to beat the Jets, and then they beat the Raiders, the Saints, and Carolina. Who cares? I mean, all those teams suck. So Broncos, nowhere near as good as Baltimore. I do think it's a get-right spot for Baltimore. I don't know if we're going to see the cash percentage start shifting on this one, but my opinion would be that the lean on the side would be to the Ravens in that game, just because the spread also kind of looks misleading as far as it looks suspect, at least as far as the teams having the same records, but the odds makers telling you what you need to know there. Rams Seahawks is a game I was kind of eyeing, maybe playing the Seahawks side there. I'm not actually going to do it, but the Rams have flipped from a 3-point dog to a 1-point favorite, and I don't know if the injury issues are coming into play there with the Rams getting a bunch of guys back. The Rams, as expected, they got Cooper Kupp back on that Thursday night game where I was on the Rams and they won against the Vikings. But unexpectedly, they also got Puka Nacua back in that game. So I did not expect that. So the Rams got both of their top 2 wide receivers back. So they're kind of at full force on offense again here. But they're coming off a big win over the Vikings, as I just mentioned. They caught the Vikings in a really bad spot. That's why I was on the Rams in that game. The Vikings on a short week having to go out to the Pacific Coast off of a huge game against Detroit. It was not a good spot for the Vikings there. Rams played a really nice game, and they beat the Vikings. Big win there. Yes, this is a divisional game, but Rams have had extra time off to think about that. And I think after you have a big win on Thursday night like that, I don't think the extra time off actually helps you that much. So I think Seattle would be the way to look on the side in this game. Seattle playing at home, of course. Seattle not traveling anywhere, and they just got absolutely crushed on the scoreboard by Buffalo. So they're kind of in a bounce-back spot here, in my opinion, a little bit after that ugly-looking loss. Not that ugly because it's a good team they lost to, but still, if you lose 31-10 to anybody, I mean, I think you're going to want to bounce back in the next game. And this was a score that was not misleading. I mean, Seahawks got absolutely plastered by Buffalo in that game. But I do think it's a bounce-back spot for Seattle here in this one. And the Rams kind of in a letdown spot, even though, yes, it is a divisional game, and the Rams are a half game behind the Seahawks. Public is all over the Rams. Like, Public, they just like what they saw last, man. And, the Rams got both of those star wide receivers back and beat the Vikings. The Rams are back, baby. 74% of the tickets on the Rams, but only 71% of the cash. So, again, I lean to the Seahawks, and you might be able to wind up getting, this is probably going to be at 1.5. Maybe it'll go to 2. I mean, it doesn't really matter which one of those numbers you get. If you do like the Seahawks, you are getting them as a small underdog price at home. So that is the way I lean in that game right now. Charles, what's up, man? Thanks for hanging out. Lions-Packers. I mean, this is one of the biggest games on the board, man. So I got to talk about Lions-Packers. Lions are up from pick 'em to 2.5. I think that the Lions are actually 3.5 in the middle of the week. So if you like the Packers, you've kind of missed the key number there on the 3.5. Because obviously, if you want to take the Packers, the 3.5 is a lot better. I still do like the Packers side in general, but at 2.5, obviously I don't like it nearly as much as I would like it at plus 3.5. But I think that some of the professional bettors came in and took the 3.5, and that thing is disappeared. But because the Lions are so public, if you do like the Packers, there's no reason to take it right now. You could wait until basically game time tomorrow at 4:25 p.m. Eastern, and maybe you'll see threes come back up again at the very least on the Packers. 75% of the tickets are on the Lions. The Lions are looking like the best team in the NFL, man. So the public loves the Lions right now. 71% of the cash, so a little bit less. Yes, this is a big game for both teams, and in games like this, the cream usually does rise to the top, but, I mean, both of these teams are competitive. Both of these teams are the cream. So what do you expect here? Detroit, I think they've looked too good recently, though. I mean, look at these points they've been putting up. They put up 42 in primetime against Seattle, 47 against Dallas in that laugher, 31 against Minnesota in that big divisional battle, and then they put up 52 in that game against Tennessee that I just pointed out. But Detroit did basically nothing offensively in that game. As I just pointed out, they only had 200-something yards of offense, and they capitalized on 4 Tennessee turnovers in that game. So that game is a bit misleading. I think basically at this point the stock is as high as it's going to get on the Detroit Lions, man. When you go through a run like this and you put up that many high point totals, there's going to be no value left on playing the Lions side here. So I would prefer to take the Packers plus the points here, especially if it's 3 or higher. Packers are also coming off a game where I think they were in a bad spot. I mentioned this last week. Jacksonville was like the first game that I left off my card last week. I actually liked Jacksonville. Almost played it. Kind of wish I did. Green Bay was coming off that tough battle against Houston, and of course, they were in a look-ahead spot because they had this huge game against Detroit coming up next. So I think going down to Jacksonville was not a good spot for Green Bay. So I think they almost got caught. Jacksonville played pretty competitively in that game. Played them pretty well, even though Green Bay was up 10 in the fourth quarter. Jacksonville actually came back and tied it, and Green Bay had to win right at the end with a field goal. I almost called it a walk-off field goal, but this isn't baseball. But do you still call it a walk-off in football? I don't know. Thanks for the tower, guys. Yeah, my search history is full of cream, but that's because it's research for Tower Gang, man. That's why. So Green Bay, I mean, I think they're kind of in a like refocus spot here after they didn't look that good against Jacksonville, didn't play that well against Jacksonville, and that's also why the public is coming in on Detroit. I mean, Detroit has looked unstoppable, so the public is only going to come in on that side, and they don't like what they've seen out of Green Bay as much, even though if Green Bay was playing most other teams, public would probably be on the Green Bay side, but in this one, they're not, especially with the recency bias there. So lean to the Packers in that one, plus the points. And then we got Jags, Eagles, I guess I'll mention as well, just because I think this game is a little bit weird and kind of interesting with the Eagles being really public. Eagles up from 6.5 to 7.5, 92% of the tickets on them and 96% of the cash. So the Eagles are one of the most public teams of the week. And I don't know that that's necessarily justified. I mean, this line looks a little bit high to me, even though Jacksonville has not been playing well. I mean, Philadelphia, they've started looking really good again. I mean, they beat the Giants very easily and on the road, and then they killed Cincinnati last week. But this is kind of a weird game where this game was a lot closer until later in the game. This is a 10-10 game at halftime, and then it was still tied, actually, with a couple minutes left in the third quarter. So it was almost tied going into the fourth quarter, and then I don't know what the hell happened here, and the Eagles wound up scoring a bunch more times in a row to finish off that game. Cincinnati was -2 in turnovers in the game, even though Philadelphia did outgain them. This result does make the Eagles look quite good. So the Eagles are coming off that game, putting up 37 against Joe Burrow, so somewhat of a big game there. And now they got this pretty bad Jacksonville team coming into their house, and up next, the Eagles have Dallas and then Washington. So they have two big divisional games up next against basically their competition in their division, because the Giants are the only team that's less competitive than the rest right now in this division. So I think it is a look-ahead spot for Philadelphia, and maybe arguably a sandwich spot because they're coming off such a nice-looking result against Cincinnati. Playing this Jacksonville team, I don't know that they're going to be totally focused on Jacksonville, man. Jacksonville, though, they are coming off a good performance, as I just pointed out, against Green Bay. So is Jacksonville going to have a little bit of a hangover spot after that? I don't know necessarily. I mean, I think Jacksonville will still be focused when they're playing a team like the Philadelphia Eagles, who's one of the better teams in football. So I don't think Jacksonville's really going to overlook anybody. It's more of a matter of, like, are they going to, like, run out of steam towards the end of this game? But I think the Eagles are in the somewhat worse spot, and they're ridiculously public in this game. So I would lean to the Jaguars plus the points in this one. Is Love playing? I believe he is. I know Love is dealing with some injury, and so is Jacobs, Josh Jacobs. Yeah, so we're talking about the Packers again. I'm thrown off because I was talking about Jacksonville and Philadelphia. But yes, Love and Jacobs for the Packers are both, like, kind of on the injury report, but it seems like they're both going to play. The trend seems like that they're both going to play. I think they both practiced or whatever. The last news article that I saw on it just a little while ago is that they're both going to play for Green Bay. So Green Bay should have their starting quarterback and running back in this one. My baby face, I did that for my Ray Gun costume for Halloween, man. I go all out with my Halloween costumes, and being a woman for Halloween, I had to get rid of all my facial hair. The only good thing about it is it makes me look younger. Other than that, I hate it. I look fat, dude. I look like a whale, especially right after I shave, and you get, like, you get that, like, post-shave bloat where your face is all inflamed from like nailing it with the razor. With Nadeau, by the way. Nadeau Razors. Promo code Tower Gang for 15% off. This should become a sponsor of Better Off Dead now, too. But when you shave, you know what I mean. Like, it really, like, messes up your face. So I am growing the beard back. It's just, it's only a matter of time, man. But I will look a little bit less young. The breakdance video, unfortunately, it might actually be out there, but I don't know if it's going to be out in the public. I was doing some kangaroo hopping at the very least. Yeah, bad razor burn, and then you use the aftershave, and it, like, really stings your face, man. Man. All right, yeah, so leans, to the Packers and to the Jaguars and those slightly. I'll talk about the night games because I don't have any plays on these night games, so the Sunday night game was going to be, it really should be Lions-Packers. I mean, that's the game everybody wants to see, but I guess you need some big game in this 4 p.m. slot here. But I forget which game was going to be the night game. I guess because it's the last in the rotation, I guess it was going to be Jags-Eagles was going to be the night game, but it got flexed out, and for whatever reason, Colts-Vikings got flexed in to the Sunday night spot. So that's the Sunday night game. Now, the Vikings in this one are down from 6.5 to 5.5 with juice. They're public with 80% of the tickets, and 80% of the cash. So no cash discrepancy to be seen here right now with the ticket percentage being the same as the cash percentage. But I think what we can say is that the Vikings are still the public team here, which might be surprising, actually, because the Colts are actually the best point spread team in the NFL right now. But I think that the recreational bettors, they just have no idea that the Colts are actually that good at covering the spread. The Colts are just consistently undervalued, man. It's wild. And the public does not like the Colts with when they've had Anthony Richardson in there, their offenses look terrible and whatever, but the Colts are 7-1 against the spread right now. So does that mean that the odds maker is going to have to move the market a little bit to accommodate for that? In this specific game, I don't think so, because again, the public is not playing the Colts here. So the odds makers do not have to skew this line towards the Colts, even though the Colts have been dominating the point spread this year. But the Colts have also been covering as underdogs a lot, obviously, because they've covered a lot of spreads, but they're only 4-4 straight up. So that means they've covered a lot as an underdog. But yeah, this one is actually a tough read. I think I probably lean to Indy slightly in this game, but Indy, they're coming off a big game, though, against Houston, and it's a second straight road game. They're going up to Minnesota, which is kind of an unfamiliar environment to them, but it is still a roofed stadium. It is still a dome, basically. So Indianapolis, they're used to playing in indoor stadiums, obviously, on turf, so that shouldn't hurt them very much there. Coming off a big game against Houston, though, where they got season swept by Houston, that could put them in a little bit of a hangover spot and playing a second straight road game, and they do have Buffalo up next, so maybe it's a little bit of a bad spot there for Indy, but are they really going to overlook a Minnesota team that's got one of the best records in the NFL still? Probably not. And like I said, Indy, they've been a covering machine, man. They cover a lot of these underdog spreads. So I do think that the lean would still probably be to the Indy side here, but it's not very strong for me at all. Indy, yeah, they're coming off that tough game against Houston, but now Joe Flacco is back, baby. Joe Flacco is coming back. Indy, I know, dude, if they're going to try to develop Anthony Richardson, they do need to play him, and I'm saying all this as a Colts fan. I didn't necessarily oppose the move, as a long-term move, getting Anthony Richardson, used to playing in the NFL, but at this point, maybe you have to say Anthony Richardson is never going to make it in the NFL, man. Yep, Flacco's back. He's shown glimpses of being good. He makes some insane plays, but it seems like for the most part, he just really struggles. He has not been playing well. So Indy, they're sitting at 500 right now, and they do still have a shot at the playoffs, obviously, with a lot of games left. So they're going for it now, man. They're putting Flacco back in, and he has obviously been their better quarterback out of the two this season. Their offense has been way better with Flacco than it has with Richardson. So Flacco will be back in there. I think he played in this stretch here, if I remember correctly, where they were putting up better offensive numbers. So Flacco, that should help Indy a little bit. So I think that is one positive for Indy there. And it could be almost I don't think it's a reverse injured player spot. Maybe it's even an injured player spot where, but I don't know about that because the team I think knows that Flacco is their better quarterback, so I don't think they're gonna feel the need to like step up their game more when they have their better quarterback coming back here. So maybe it's actually a little bit of a reverse injured player spot. I don't know. Minnesota, I mean, they're coming off that kind of ugly loss to the Rams in that Thursday night game that everybody saw. And they have extra time off. So, yeah, I mean, it does look like maybe they could use that extra time off to prepare something. They don't have bigger games up next at all. Jacksonville and Tennessee. So, Minnesota could show up focused on this game. And Sunday night, it could potentially be a bounce-back spot for Minnesota here as well. So, I could see arguments for both sides in this game. So, I'm certainly not playing it. But because the public is so heavily on the Vikings and because the Colts have covered so often here, my lean as it stands right now would be to taking the points of the Colts, but I certainly don't want anything to do with it. Peanut gave him rabies. That might be the case. I don't know, man. Peanut was up in New York, so I don't know. Yeah, let Flacco cook. I mean, that is what they're going to do. And Flacco, I mean, he's old, man. He's like almost 40 years old, but he led Cleveland to the playoffs last year and then did terribly in the playoff game. So we'll see what Indy can do with Joe Flacco in that game. And then Monday night game, this is a hard game for me to read, man. The Monday night game is Tampa Bay at Kansas City. Kansas City's down from 9.5 to 9. They are a bit public. It looks like it was 70% of the tickets, but they have 79% of the cash on them. So even though the line has dropped a little bit on the Chiefs, it looks like they are getting the majority of the cash, like more of the cash than the tickets. So like market read seems to kind of be indicating on the side of the Chiefs. And I have heard some professional bettors saying that the Buccaneers are actually a public underdog in this game, which I wouldn't quite classify them as that based on these numbers, but I would say that because the Chiefs have more of the cash than the tickets, and it might be fairly significant that that makes Tampa at the very least not as anti-public as they should be, I guess. I don't know how to phrase that better, but hopefully you know what I mean. But it does mean that maybe that more of the cash and the tickets is coming in on Kansas City, if that makes sense. That still means that maybe too many of the tickets are coming in on Tampa and some of the small bets still coming in on Tampa where the bigger bets are coming in on Kansas City. Tampa, and they're coming off 2 straight losses, though. So they lost this Monday night game to Baltimore. They lost Mike Evans in the game. I don't know when he's coming back. Then at the end of the game, as I've mentioned multiple times, they lost Chris Godwin. Terrible for Todd Bowles to have him in there, a play that wasn't going to determine the outcome of the game. And now I lost Chris Godwin for my fantasy team. I lost Stephon Diggs for my fantasy team. My wide receivers are hurting, man. Even though Tank Dell actually did well for me on Thursday night because I have him as well. He actually got me off to a decent start this week, but I still don't have that much faith, although my non-running back positions are fairly solid, so the fact that one of my wide receivers did well already is actually maybe a decent sign in that league, and I'm sitting at 5-3 in my main league. You don't care about fantasy football, though. Well, maybe you do. But Tampa, I mean, then that last game that they had, they lost to Atlanta. Atlanta season swept them, so it is possible Tampa's in kind of a bounce-back spot here because of that, because they played ugly both of those games. But I don't know what they're going to do with those wide receivers out, man. So Tampa, they're a pretty injured team right now, but they do have guys filling in. They got McMillan, who I also picked up in fantasy. Cade Otton is getting a lot of the passing targets now in that offense. I also have him in fantasy now. Oh, man, lots of fantasy implications for my team in that league with Tampa there. But Tampa, yeah, I don't know what to think about them, man. They could be in a bounce-back spot, but their offense could maybe struggle a little bit, missing some of those guys. On the Kansas City side, I mean, they're coming off a divisional win against Las Vegas. I don't know if there's that much to take away from that, really. I mean, they beat the Raiders. Like, who cares, really? They almost always beat the Raiders, but it is still a divisional spot. So, like, does that mean they're going to be in a letdown spot coming off of that? And they do have a divisional game against Denver up next, and Denver is only 2 games behind them. But that game might not wind up mattering as much if Denver loses this week to the Ravens. So Kansas City, I mean, I guess arguably they're in like this AFC West sandwich situation kind of because they're playing an NFC team in the middle there, but I don't necessarily know that I see it that way. I mean, they might still show up focused for a game against Tampa, but then all that being said, Kansas City's also laying 9.5 points here, man. And Kansas City has not been a team that's been covering a lot of spreads. I mean, they play good defense. Their offense is not very potent, even though now I know they added DeAndre Hopkins, but I think he's still dealing with injuries, man. And he at least didn't look that great in his first game with Kansas City. But Kansas City's offense, still not really a great offense, and they have not won by margin in a lot of these games here, man. So tough ask to actually want to lay the points like that with Kansas City. And maybe it's a spot where Tampa is being too undervalued at this point just because they've lost these wide receivers or whatever. You're now getting 9 points with Tampa in this one. I don't know, man. But then again, the cash percentage is also indicating on the Chiefs. So what dick pick 2030? Nobody has seen that, right? Tower Gang didn't release that. I submitted to Cocktober, but they didn't release that. What else we got going on here? Let me see. I think that's it. I'll get to my actual plays now because that was the Monday night game, right? And as far as the total is concerned in both of these games, because I guess sometimes I talk about the total in these primetime games, but I don't do a whole lot with totals. Colts Vikings up from 46 to 47 with 88% of the tickets and cash on the over. Looks like the over is public, but it's moved up a little bit on the over. I mean, I can kind of see arguments for the over with Joe Flacco being back in there. I mean, the Colts offense is way better with him in there. Vikings offense has been fairly decent as well. And when it's a spot that could be a focus spot for both teams, I could see it going both ways, or maybe both offenses are going to be focused, but maybe both defenses are going to show up and play with more intensity as well. So it's hard to read the total in that one. Bucks Chiefs total up from 45 to 45.5, 68% of tickets, 98% of the cash. Yeah, search for Tower Gang nudes leaked. Yeah, I hope Top Lobster did not leak it. But yeah, this total has gone up a little bit and has more of the cash than the tickets on the over. So it does look like there are some market indicators indicating towards the over in this one, even though the Chiefs, I tend to not like playing overs on the Chiefs, especially in primetime games. I mean, it's Patrick Mahomes, so usually the public is coming in on the over, even though the Chiefs have not played that well offensively for the last couple of years. They've turned into a much better defensive team, so I'm not quite sure I see the angle for the over here necessarily. And Buccaneers, obviously, with some major offensive injuries there as well, but that's going to obviously be factored into the total now too. But I'm not sure that I see the angle for an over in that one. Let's go to my actual plays. Two more plays. I'm 1-0 in the NFL week so far with the Jets winning. My two plays, I mean, these are going to look kind of ugly, but both of these games are similar in a way, too. Where I think we're getting line value on both of these. Miami Dolphins plus 6.5 is going to be the first one. They're playing the Buffalo Bills on the road, and I know the Bills have had the Dolphins number recently. The Bills up from 5.5 to 6, going through the 6. As I said, there's 6.5s out there fairly predominantly right now. I don't really expect this to go to 7, but I guess there's no reason to really take the 6.5 right now. If you think it might get to 7, I guess there is a possibility that it does. I kind of doubt it, though. 85% of the tickets and 67% of the cash on the Buffalo Bills. Buffalo is, of course, going to be public because the Miami has not been playing well this season, and Buffalo has been playing well. So the public's only going to come in on the Buffalo side, and it almost looks too easy in a way where you're laying Buffalo. You just have to play Buffalo to win by less than a touchdown here. But I actually think the line is too high, and only 67% of the cash coming in on the Buffalo side in that one. So it just does look like Buffalo is one of those public favorites with less of the cash than the tickets coming in on them. As far as Miami is concerned, yeah, Miami hasn't been playing well, but how many of those games were they without Tua? They were without Tua for all of these games against Seattle, Tennessee, New England, and then Indy as well. And Tua came back last week against Arizona. So that was Tua's first game back. So even though I kind of liked the Miami side in that one, obviously it was not a play for me. Miami blew the game, actually. They were winning by 9 in the fourth quarter, and they blew it. They were winning 27-18. But this is Tua's first game back, man. So, you know, when you have a star quarterback like that who's been out for several weeks, basically, and they come back, they're not necessarily going to be as effective, like, right out of the gate, man. Like, the quarterback has to get used to playing again. The team has to get used to playing with that quarterback again. But now I think it's a better spot for the Dolphins because now Tua has played that game. They got that game out of the way. They got it under their belt, and you're just going to see them start to like regain that chemistry with Tua, in my opinion. So I think playing Miami in the second game where he's back is a better prospect than playing them in the reverse injured player spot the first game that he's back. So I like that aspect of this. Miami. And of course, Miami's going to be gunning for Buffalo, man. I mean, Buffalo has beaten Miami so many times in a row, and it's like Miami can't seem to get over the hump and beat them. So to one extent, I don't like that. But on the other side, you're getting a lot of points here, man, with Miami. So they don't even need to win the game. They just need to cover. Miami is actually, I was going to say, I thought they were in last place, but they're not. New England is in last. But Miami is way behind in the division right now. Buffalo, they're sitting 3 games atop the division right now. Actually, 3.5 ahead of the Jets right now. So Buffalo, they have a huge cushion in the AFC East right now. So Buffalo maybe a little bit less motivated than Miami is, man. Miami, you might see Miami being a little bit more desperate here to try to get themselves back into it this season, where Buffalo, they can kind of afford to take their foot off the gas a little bit. And Miami certainly cannot. And if you're going to have the Miami team being the more motivated and focused team, and you're getting a bunch of points with them as an underdog, that's what you like to see. Like, you want to see a team that's going to put in a full game's worth of effort, maybe against a team that might not necessarily, and getting points with that team that's going to be putting in the fuller effort. Yeah, let's do it. Let's take Miami in this one. And Miami, again, I think they're kind of also in a bounce back spot because they've lost those last couple of games. So I think this is a spot for Miami to get right. They get to go out on the road, play Buffalo. I guess the weather might be a little bit of a concern, so you got to make sure of that. But it looks like it's going to be 55 and clear, so that's not bad. It's not going to be one of these cold weather games where Miami really struggles. It's going to be fine enough weather, even though it might be a little bit cool up in Buffalo. It's not going to be horrendous weather, so I don't think that's really that much of a factor either. And then looking at this first game, so this is in-season revenge for Miami as well. And it's one of those road reversal revenge angles that I talk about. So that's another angle coming into play here. When you have a team in the division and they lost a divisional game at home, and then they're an underdog later in the season when they're the road team playing at the other team's house, that road underdog tends to be a pretty good play, man, in the NFL historically, because they just want to repay the favor, man. They know they lost to this team on their home turf, and they want to come back and do the same thing to that other team on the road, whereas the other team, having beaten them, like Buffalo's already beaten Miami on the road. So, like, what do you expect? If Buffalo's beaten Miami so many times in a row, do you think Buffalo's going to take Miami 100% seriously? Maybe not, even though Tua is back. Of course, most of Buffalo's wins recently against Miami did have Tua. Looking at this game that they did play earlier this season, it looks like Buffalo blew Miami out 31-10. And even if they did, I would still like Miami here because that's like an embarrassing result on your home turf. Of course, we know Tua got hurt in the middle of this game, so he was playing for a bit. But this was a misleading score in many ways, man. I mean, there was a pick 6 in the third quarter of the game for Buffalo, but Buffalo got outgained, man, even though Tua didn't even play the full game. Miami outpossessed them 36-23, basically minute-wise, 20-13 in first downs in favor of Miami, and Miami outgained them by over 100 yards, 351-247. So Miami's offense actually outplayed Buffalo's in this game, and the scoreboard does not reflect that at all. So this game was, at the very least, it was a lot closer than the final score looked, and in some ways, debatably, Miami outplayed the Bills in this game. So I think that when you look underneath the surface of this game, the Bills did not really actually destroy Miami in this game. And now Miami's got Tua back, man. So I like everything I just said about this. I like the spot for the Miami Dolphins in this one, man, for all those reasons. So that's going to be the first play there. Miami Dolphins plus 6.5, assuming it does not get to 7, which I don't think it will. What's up, Alan? Thank you, sir. You want my channel to commit suicide because it is better off dead, right? So I'm suicidal and my channel is suicidal. And then the last game that I got for you, I got 2 plays on Sunday. I'm trying to be selective again. Actually, before I forget, because it's going to be a similar thing in both these games. Also, what was the line in this first game? Buffalo at Miami, right? So let's take a look at what the line was. Miami was minus 2.5 at home. I know that they were, I can tell you, without even looking. So at least on ESPN Bet, that was the closing number. Miami was a 2.5-point favorite, okay, at home. Do we have like a huge personnel change here between that game and this game? I don't think so because Tua started that game and Tua is starting this game. So Tua was there to start that game. Tua's here for this game. So he's the biggest piece for Miami here. He's still there. Miami, as far as I know, I don't think they have any significant injuries that should move the line like this. So Miami was 2.5. And yeah, maybe that line wasn't totally accurate. I actually liked Buffalo to cover in that one, mostly because Buffalo has just had Miami's number to such a degree. But even so, if you take the 2.5, if you just take that to be what it was, then what should the line be in this game when we switch stadiums and we go to Buffalo? Well, that's indicating that Buffalo should probably only be, around maybe a 3.5 point favorite or so in this game. And they're 6.5. So you're getting line value on this Miami side, dude, based on this. Again, what has changed from this game earlier in the season to now? With Tua being there in both cases and not really a huge personnel difference. The only thing that's changed is that the Dolphins sucked without Tua, and that's influencing the line. As far as I can tell, Miami lost a bunch of games without Tua. Yeah, okay. Yeah, they did, but now he's back. So shouldn't Miami basically be close to, these teams should be, the matchup should be close to what it was in that first game. And so this line should be, 3.5. Even if you think that line was a little bit off in that first game, then what? Buffalo should be 4.5 maybe in this game at most, and it's 6.5. So you're getting line value based on that. I like these repeat matchups a lot of times, man. Both of my plays are going to be on divisional second matchups this Sunday here. So I like that, man, because you can find value like that where the line is just skewed and you can just tell it's too high. And in this case, it is. And like I said, Buffalo's just been kind of annihilating teams recently. So Buffalo looks better than they are. I mean, they're coming off blowing out Seattle. I forgot to mention that. They went on the road to the Pacific Coast, so they did have to travel cross country. Now they are traveling back cross country to play this game. So Buffalo also with more travel here, and they're coming off looking really good again, blowing out Seattle. So the public obviously is going to be on them with Miami. Even with Tua back, Miami not looking good. Like I said, that ugly game last week. But as far as Miami, like I said, I think getting away from there and going out on the road, I think is going to help them because they don't have to listen to the talking heads in Miami talking about how Miami sucks. They get to just go out on the road and focus on football. So Miami plus 6.5 in that first game. Makes sense. Thank you, Charles. Repeat matchups. Yeah, you like that? It's an autism pleaser. Yeah, Seattle, it's a very gay city. They definitely like getting blown out. And then my other play, as you could probably guess based on what I've already said, is going to be on the New York Giants. I know I lost on the Giants on Monday night. It was a close call. Giants had opportunities to cover that number, man. They were close to covering, and they didn't quite get there. They missed by 1.5 points. I'm going back to the well here, and I'm playing the Giants in this game. I think this is a good spot to play the Giants in this game, even though they are on a short week. Yes, they are coming off a Monday night game against a physical Pittsburgh defense. I do realize that, but everything else about this matchup puts me on the Giants, man. So, yeah, that one drawback is the short week off of a physical defense, fine. But they still didn't look that good. They lost that game. They didn't look good again in a primetime game. So the public is going to want nothing to do with the Giants. I mean, why would they want anything to do with this Giants team who is what? What are they? 2-6. I almost said 1-6. They're 2-6 against a 6-2 Washington team. Public's obviously only going to come in one way on this one, and it's going to be on this Washington team that keeps continuing to look pretty impressive. Whereas the Giants look like they can't do anything right. And again, like I said, we saw the Giants just play and look awful on primetime. So even though it is a short week, a lot of times when a team looks really bad on Monday, you can find value on them because the public all saw that game. It was a primetime game. All the eyes were on it, and the eye test, people just don't like what they see, and I don't think they like what they see at all out of the Giants here. Looking at the market in this one, Washington's up from 3 to 4. Very public with 87% of tickets, although they do have 90% of the cash on them. So the cash discrepancy kind of indicating there is some money coming in on Washington here, but I don't think I buy it. It's possible that that's maybe a setup. I mean, I know that I have seen actually a couple of professionals playing the Washington side in this one, but I completely disagree with those guys who are doing that. And I think this could be somewhat of a setup anyway, man. Even though I know some pros did lay the points with Washington, I think you're getting absolutely no value playing Washington here, laying points like that on the road with Washington. I think all the values on the Giants side here as far as the number is concerned. And I like the spot as well. But with the way Washington and the Giants have both been playing, like, how could there possibly be any value laying points with Washington here? I mean, this is a market, and the stock is, like, basically as high as it's going to get on Washington as they keep winning. And it's close to as low as it's probably going to get on the Giants, who can't seem to get out of their own way and get a win here. So I'm fading the public in this one. I'm taking the points with the Giants. Washington, looking at what they just did, they're off a huge game, dude. They just beat the Chicago Bears, and that was the rookie quarterback battle, man, and they won as dramatically as they possibly could. And I won money on it. They should have won more easily, but this was the battle, man. This is what everybody wanted. Caleb Williams against Jayden Daniels, number 1 versus number 2, and Jayden Daniels proved that he is really the number 1 here, as he put up nice numbers, 326 passing yards against a solid Bears defense. Very nice performance from Jayden Daniels. I don't know how Washington didn't score more, man. It's just ridiculous that they didn't score more in this game. And Caleb Williams, on the other hand, was 10 for 24 for 131 yards against a very weak Washington defense. That is not good, man. Williams faced a much weaker defense in this game, and his performance was way worse than Daniels, who did it against a much better defense. So I think that tells you all you need to know, man. Daniels absolutely obliterated Williams statistically in this game and did it against the way better defense. So impressive from Jayden Daniels. I don't know how Washington didn't win this game more easily. They outgained Chicago by almost 200 yards. They put up almost 500 yards of offense, had 8 more first downs, outpossessed them by almost 5 minutes. Makes no sense that Washington was on the brink of losing this game. And as you can see from the graph, Washington was winning this game the whole game. They were winning 12-0 fairly late in the third quarter. So somehow Chicago had put up no points through almost 3 quarters against this awful Washington awful Washington defense, excuse me. So that's just ridiculous. And then when they did actually even score, it was a ridiculous 56-yard rushing play where they finally actually scored that touchdown. I mean, okay, whatever. It's just ridiculous. Washington, and then, they fell behind with 25 seconds left. Washington was leading the whole way from 8:51 left in the first quarter all the way to 25 seconds left in the game. Washington was winning this game. And then they wound up having to snatch the victory away at the end there was, as we know, that ridiculous Hail Mary at the end where the Bears defender there stupidly was like gloating in front of the fans or whatever, and then he didn't get back into position, and he was the one that the ball bounced off of, and he basically caused Washington to be able to make that catch in the end zone to win the game. Just totally ridiculous. Nice karma there. I'm happy about it because I had Washington in that game plus 2.5, I think. And with Jayden Daniels being announced that he was going to play in that game, it flipped to Washington minus 1.5 in that game. So I had the better of the number in that game too. But enough about this game. What really matters is that so even though I was making kind of a case for Washington being better than they looked in that game, but the case I'm trying to make here is that Washington is coming off a really big game, man. I mean, that was the rookie quarterback battle. Huge game for Washington, huge win, and the point I was trying to make is they won really dramatically. So you come off of that, you got to be in a letdown spot, man. And what are you doing? You're going to New York to face the Giants in an afternoon game on Sunday that people aren't going to pay that much attention to, and it's a Giants team you already beat at home, which I'm going to dive into that matchup a little bit more in a second, what happened in that game. So I don't think Washington's going to have full focus here, man. They're coming off that huge win. And then they do have Pittsburgh up next, which is a bigger game because Pittsburgh has a good record and they've been playing well. So I'm not sure that Washington's going to take the Giants totally seriously here, man. And looking at this first game, the Giants actually played well in this game back in week 2 against Washington. The Giants actually were able to hold this Jayden Daniels offense down to some extent, at least on the scoreboard, even though, yes, Washington did put up 425 yards of offense and held the ball for 37 minutes. So they did play better offensively than what the final score looks, but the Giants were still in this game, man. The Giants were winning the game in the fourth quarter, and really the only reason they lost this game is because they didn't have a kicker. The Giants lost Graham Gano to an injury in this game, and they played the rest of the game with no kicker, so they scored a touchdown early, and they couldn't even attempt the PAT. They scored 2 touchdowns in the game, couldn't even attempt the PAT, which I guess they tried earlier in the game and missed one. So then they just said, fuck it, we don't have a kicker. Let's just attempt all 2-point conversions. They missed all of them, and that was the difference in the game. They wound up losing by 3 on a field goal right at the end that broke the tie. So the Giants could have won this game. And the other thing that this does is that this means the Giants defense has seen Jayden Daniels before. This is going to be the first time this season that this Jayden Daniels, Cliff Kingsbury offense is facing a team that's already seen them once. So I think that's an advantage to the defense, man. When you have a rookie quarterback and a new offensive coordinator there, and the league hasn't seen you yet, and they don't know what you're going to be throwing at them. But now this Giants team, who actually has been pretty good defensively this season, has seen that Washington offense already, and they actually did okay against them. Well, they did allow a lot of yardage, but they held them in check score-wise. I think that's an advantage to the Giants the second time through, man, because they've seen this offense once. They know more about what to expect. They know more about how to defend it. So I think that's an advantage to the Giants as well. Maybe a little bit of disadvantage to this Jayden Daniels offense, finally having to face a defense for a second time that has already seen him. He has not done that yet this season. And then also, look at the line in this game, man. Washington was a 1.5-point favorite. I think the Giants might have actually been a favorite at some point in this game as well, but we'll take this as it says. Washington closes a minus 1.5-point favorite at home. Now they're minus 4 on the road. What? So how does that make any sense at all? What has changed from this game? Well, I guess Jayden Daniels looks better than we thought, because I guess this was only like his second game or whatever. Yeah, so sure, okay. Jayden Daniels is better than we thought he was coming into this game, but even so, Washington was minus 1.5 at home, which that line was indicating the Giants are actually the better team, which, okay, we know that's not the case, but still, the fact that this line has shifted so much, if Washington was indeed minus 1.5 at home, then that means the Giants should be like minus whatever, minus 4.5 at home. Obviously, we know that they're not. So let's say Washington is the somewhat better team here. So let's say that they should have been even 4.5 at home, let's say. That still would mean that the Giants should still be, like, this should still be close to a pick 'em or like 1.5 point line for Washington. So this line is all out of whack. The value is only coming on the Giants side here. Excuse me, with this line moving so far up, man. Like I'm saying, like based on what this line was, this number has shifted like 9 points from where it was in this game. Did I do that math right? Because this was saying Washington was 1.5. No, it was saying Washington was 1.5. So yeah, what did I just say? I forget what I even just said. So the Giants would have been. Yeah, 4.5, basically, according to this. The Giants should probably be about 4.5 at home, and they're getting 4 points instead. And again, like I said, the Giants should not be a 4.5-point favorite in this game, but they should also not be a 4-point underdog. So this line should not have moved 9 points, even though Daniels is better than what we thought he was then. I think a fair adjustment would probably be about 4 points there. So I think you're getting a lot of line value here. This line should be closer to a pick 'em, in my opinion, even though, unfortunately, we do see more of the cash percentage coming in on Washington, but fuck it. I think this is a letdown spot for the side of Washington. I think Washington could overlook the Giants. Giants are going to be in a little bit more revenge mode after losing that first game. All the reasons I just said, I like the Giants in this one. And yeah, the Giants, they are on a short week, so that's the one drawback here, but it was still not a very good loss, and they've lost 3 games in a row, so I think they are going to want to bounce back here, and they don't have a huge game up next or anything, so they're still going to be focused on a Washington team that beat them, and they know how they lost that game. Giants at least have an actual kicker now coming into this game, so I do think the Giants are going to be focused, and Washington's focus could be more called into question here, and this is also Washington, the first-place team in the division right now, facing the bottom team in the division. So it's possible Washington might overlook them for that reason as well, even though Washington does still need to maintain their lead over Philadelphia. But still, I like the Giants in this one for all those reasons. And I think that's going to do it. We go an hour on the show. I did like an hour and a half, hour, 45 minutes on the college football. I feel like I'm completely back now, being very long-winded and giving you a lot of long episodes here. So I think that's going to do it for me. Skip it? Yeah, skip the pussy. I need to know how to tease. Do you want me to talk about teasing again? Just out? You need to learn how to tease, because what are you talking about, man? You don't want to tease Buffalo down as a 6.5 point favorite. That makes no sense. The only teasers that have value, as I've explained on the show before, are the Stanford Wong teasers in the NFL, and you actually want to do it on the closing number as well. So maybe if Buffalo gets up to 7.5, then yes, okay. I think they justify a teaser leg at that point. But you want to do it on the closing line, ideally, because that's when the line is closest to where it actually should be, and the line is the most efficient. Then you come in and tease it, and then you know you're getting the most value on that line, because then you're getting the 6 points on what the closing line is. You want it to be a 2-team 6-point teaser in the NFL. That's the only way to do it. The only way you should be playing teasers, and it should be a situation where for both teams, you're taking the number through all the key numbers, through 7, 4, and 3. So you're either teasing an underdog up from plus 1.5, 2, or 2.5 up to 7.5, 8, or 8.5, or you're taking a favorite that's 7.5, 8, or 8.5 and dropping it down to 1.5, 2, or 2.5. So that's how you do the teasers. So just out, I obviously disagree with you on this. I think you're wrong. I don't even need Miami to win. I just need him to cover. But I like the play on Miami. I'm doing it. And like I said, Buffalo is not a valid teaser leg unless they get up to 7.5. And even if they do, because I like the side on Miami, I still probably would not want to tease Buffalo on that one. Upside down guy, what's up, man? I don't know how you keep commenting because you're dead. I don't know what that is. You got chicken pickle eye peanuts. I get the peanut part of it. Yeah, we can fall backwards. Yeah, Peanut is dead. I get that much. All right, that's going to do it for me, though, man. I'm Tower Gang Toad. You can follow me on Twitter. Follow the Tower Gang Podcast, of course, the most offensive comedy podcast that has ever existed. Sign up for the Patreon, patreon.com/Tower Gang. You get bonus content, live pre-show, live post-show. You get to hang out with us in a Telegram, submit to the mailbag, etc. It's a whole lot of fun. And go follow the guys at flapper.net, FLAPPR.net. I'm running the betting odds for their Mommy Milkers of the Year. Is that what it's called? Milkers of the Year series, where they give out awards to famous racks of the year, women that have done something special over the course of the year and have nice racks. So that's all going on. I just updated the odds again. I sent them over to Flapper. I don't know if he's updated that or not, but they're also fun, man. If you like this NFL show here, they do weekly NFL blog posts where they run down the whole all the NFL results, and they are pretty funny about it as well. So there's a lot of comedy involved there too. So they do sports comedy. They talk about women and talk about politics and history a little bit. So all the stuff that we love. That's going to do it once again for me, man. Thanks for hanging out. And my two plays that I have, again, are Miami plus 6.5, Giants plus 4. Those are the two NFL Sunday plays, and I'm already 1-0 this week with the Jets play that already happened on Thursday, so hopefully you guys were on board for that one too. That's going to do it, man. Elliot Page, what? Yeah, that's true. The only reason she trans is so she can show her unblurred zipper tits. But no, Ellen Page, she showed her tits in, what was that movie? There was some movie where she was like lesing out with Kate Mara. I forget the name of the movie. You can go look it up. Obviously, I've viewed those scenes once or twice in the past. Hot scenes, man. Ellen Page, she was not bad looking as a chick, all right? Those are some hot scenes with her and Kate Mara there, so you can go look that up. But you can see Ellen Page's titties before she chopped them off, and she's an idiot for doing so. She was pretty cute back in the day. That's going to do it. Peace out, everyone. Have a good one. And thanks for hanging out. Oh, and I was just going to mention briefly, it's maybe not quite as late for me this time because we're falling back in the fall, baby. We're gaining an hour tonight, so I get more sleep, more jerking off time, more time to hang out with you people, and whatever the case may be. We get an extra hour. Do whatever you want with it, baby. And that's going to do it. Now I'm signing off. Peace out, guys. Thank you.